Джеймс Хэрн, директор проекта «Конкурентоспособность сельского хозяйства и развитие предприятий» ACED, занимает эту должность с 2012 года. Опыт управления проектами в сфере сельского хозяйства и производства продукции с высокой добавленной стоимостью составляет около 25 лет. Джеймс Хэрн работал в Африке, Восточной Европе, Южной Азии и Латинской Америке. ACED работает с группами производителей и предприятиями цепочек добавления стоимости. Упаковочные цеха, предприятия холодильной цепи, поставщики сырья, экспортеры, супермаркеты и другие. Специалисты проекта помогают развивать компаниям рыночные связи, обучают их производственному процессу и оказывают техническую помощь.
Добрый день. Одним из самых интересных проектов в рамках ACED, на мой взгляд, является разработка зонтичного бренда для овощей и фруктов. Этот проект, этот бренд, он уже работает или еще не прошло достаточно времени для этого?
Well, we believe it's been working quite well, actually. We've been using this promotional campaign for the past 3 years in the international trade shows. Moldova is not a large country. It doesn't produce huge volumes of fruit. It can't compete with Poland or some of the larger producers which have 10 times as much fruit as we have. So we have to find a distinctive niche for Moldova, and we're trying to emphasize the taste, which we feel is the real advantage Moldova has. And we will use the taste of Moldovan fruit to get into some of these niche markets around the world.
Каким требованиям должна отвечать продукция, чтобы производители могли разместить логотип на своих товарах?
Actually, we have not implemented any kind of a formal program for this logo. We are working closely with Moldova Fruct, which is the association for the apple growers here in Moldova, and the Table Grape Producers and Exporters Association. And we have allowed them to use it on cartons that are used by their producers. And I think you may have seen in some of the supermarkets, even here in Moldova, you'll see the boxes, apple boxes with the Moldova Taste Makes a Difference logo on it. We're working with Moldova Fruit now to create some type of what we call a quality circle, where producers will be, the more sophisticated producers will be a member of this, and there will be criteria for using the logo on their packaging, particularly for exports, because that's where the real risk could come if the fruit was not of high quality. We'd like to have Moldova Fruit be the owner of the logo, and they will be managing how it will be used with their producers.
Какие рынки вы рассматриваете как наиболее перспективные для молдавских овощей и фруктов?
Well, we're looking at a broad range of markets. Right now, I'd say Egypt and India look like quite good prospects for us. We have a number of producers that would like to go to Egypt in April for a trade show that's there. So we will probably do at least a visitation with them to see what's there. And there are some buyers from Egypt that would like to buy Moldovan apples. We had an Indian buyer here last week who spent 4 or 5 days going around looking at apples. He's very keen to import Moldovan apples, but we need to go through a process with the food safety authorities in India before we can export apples to India. The apples would need to be approved before we can actually do a shipment. Back in December, we helped a local producer ship some apples to Bangladesh, and they were very much appreciated. They sold out quite quickly in the local market, and the buyer there wants to buy another 10 containers. And the packaging, they're more flexible on the packaging and things like that. You know, they generally demand different sizes or different varieties, so we feel there are opportunities given the production that's here in Moldova. The EU is very competitive, and also the requirements for quality and packaging are very high. Plus, you have producers in Europe that are well established with the supermarket trade there. And it's very difficult for a new competitor to penetrate those markets. The other problem is with the ban in Russia. There's a tremendous oversupply of apples throughout Europe, actually throughout the world. And so in Europe, prices have declined significantly for Polish apples, German apples, French apples, and there's not much room for penetration. So we're trying to focus on areas where there are opportunities for Moldova to squeeze in and provide some apples.
Какие проблемы, связанные с экспортом, чаще всего возникают у молдавских производителей?
Well, certainly one of the issues is the payment terms. In the past, most of the shipments have gone to Russia. There's been fairly good relationships between Moldovan producers and Russian buyers. But now in international circles, they need to work with letters of credit, which means basically they don't get paid until either the goods are delivered to the ship and they're on their way, or the goods actually arrive in country and then they get paid later on. So the producers need to adapt to that criteria. And then we're finding that each country seems to have its own packaging requirements, so they need to be able to adapt to the packaging requirements of each individual market. In Bangladesh, for example, they wanted relatively small apples in large boxes that weigh 18 kilos, and we had to help the producer here find the right kind of boxes, get some of the trays that he needed to put the apples in, and then go through the sorting process, washing the apples and making sure they were acceptable to the customer in Bangladesh. So there's a number of different factors that create problems, and we're working with these producers to meet those problems.
Важный инструмент для продвижения молдавской продукции, плодовочной продукции на зарубежных рынках – это экспозиции, выставки. Но чаще всего они обходятся очень дорого компаниям. Вы как-то помогаете им в участии?
This year what we have done is the project has covered the cost of renting the space and putting up the stand at the shows. And we've left it to the producers to cover their own costs to get there and to, their travel, their lodging, and their meals while they're at the shows. We also send the samples to the shows as well, because we can do that better as a group rather than have each person individually send their own samples.
ACED напрямую не оказывает финансовую поддержку предприятиям, но помогает найти финансирование. Как работает этот механизм и с какими фондами вы сотрудничаете?
Project is financed by USAID, the United States Agency for International Development. This is money from the American people here dedicated to supporting Moldova, the development of Moldovan agriculture. We don't generally make grants. We don't provide direct financial support to the producers. We do a couple of things that we do what we call demo activities with farmers, where if we want to demonstrate a new technology, say the use of drip irrigation in a vineyard, we can work with a farmer who has a vineyard and who has some of the equipment needed, and we'll provide an additional piece of equipment for him to implement the drip irrigation in his vineyard. And then we agree with them that we can bring other farmers in to observe how that technology is used. But generally, we expect the producers to operate within the business environment here and find their own financing for their production and marketing activities.
Вы также работаете с компаниями из Приднестровья. Насколько они открыты к сотрудничеству?
We've found very good receptivity on the part of both farmers and processing companies in Transnistria. And I've been quite surprised by how well our program has gone over there. We do a lot of trying to bring both Transnistrians together with Moldovans and trying to create some what we call cross-bank fertilization. Many of our activities include participants from both sides of the Dniester River. Like the trade shows, we've had Transnistrian companies and Moldovan companies at all of the trade shows. And we use technical trainers from the right bank to go over to the left bank. And it's been very rewarding for us to see the cooperation between the participants. I think business basically doesn't really get involved too much with politics, and they decide, okay, if it's a business deal and it makes sense, we're going to go ahead with it. So.
Какого еще рода поддержку ACED оказывает сельхозпроизводителям?
One of the other things we do is we have what we call our value chain assistance, and what we're trying to do with that is to help producers and processors improve what we call the post-harvest infrastructure for their crops. Say, for example, an apple producer or a table grape producer wants to put in a cold store. We can cost share with him the development of a feasibility study or a business plan, which would allow him to go to a bank and get some money to put up a cold store. We've done a number of those where we basically cover 50% of the cost of a local business plan And then we'll help him also with the application process for a loan or for a grant from other financial sources. And we're also doing some demo activities with new crops. We have a producer out towards Laoshen who is putting in 15 hectares of blueberries. We're working with him to develop that as a real demo activity for blueberries as a new crop for Moldova. We've prepared a number of technical manuals for farmers here in Moldova that give them a good source of information on their crop and how they can produce the crop, how they can take care of it, how they can make sure they're protected from diseases and things like that. And we distribute these free of charge. Anybody, you've seen we have a rack out in front of the door. People can come and take them if they would like. And when we do our seminars or if we do any other public events, we'll have boxes of these available. And these things go very quickly. People like to take them, and we're hoping that they're using them. But we've done some for apples, we've done table grapes, we've done packaging fresh tomatoes, greenhouse building, cherries, plums, so I mean a broad range of technical materials. And then we have shorter technical bulletins, which are basically 4-page documents that we mail out to farmers as part of an ongoing informational program for the farmers. The other thing I wanted to mention is that this is the largest magazine in Europe for fruit and vegetable producers and marketers. And we hosted the editor of this magazine here in Moldova back in October, and he prepared a 4-page article on Moldova, which appeared in this magazine. This magazine gets out to everybody who's anybody in the fruit business in Europe, and at Fruit Logistica in Berlin, they were giving this magazine out for free. So people were picking it up, and this really got a lot of good coverage for Moldova. So it was, we think that was one of the better accomplishments we've had, at least for this year so far.
В этом году проект ACED заканчивается. Вы собираетесь его продлевать?
That's not up to me or to us. Our project will end in March of 2016. USAID, I believe, is working on plans for another agricultural project, and we're hopeful that they will continue the type of work that we're doing.
Спасибо вам за интересную информацию.
Okay, you're welcome.